remember who I worked with who used to say Friday, but today I'm stealing their terminology. Welcome to episode 27, if I'm not mistaken, of For No Particular Reason with your fabulous host, Kerri Lewis, and the amazing Yankov as my co-host. What's cooking?
Not a whole much. I'm just excited that it's Friday and the vibe that you're bringing, it's awesome. I can feed up on that vibe all day long. So
Well, yeah,
it's
listen, people, today was a burning of the stuff because I woke up and I had a moment and I needed to reset. But, it's something that I want to jump right in here and talk about is just prior to us jumping on, we were talking about using another streaming service. And you said, well, it's like with anything else in life, if you don't try it, you don't know. And I think that is a perfect segue into talking about the fact that the way in which we experience a full life is being willing to try new things and okay with the hiccups that come with trying new things.
That's right. Yeah, I think I'm always curious about things, and that's why I was like, let's try it. But cleaning the space, it's also important because as you go out into the world, like wearing your shoes, they get all muddy and everything, and you don't want to bring that mud in your apartment or in your home. You leave your shoes at the door. So if there's anything that you bring home, it's always good to get it off and just keep it outside. Yeah.
Woo, yep. Let it go. And I clean the space a lot because it's my meditation space. So I release a lot of energy here, which
Let
is
me
important.
let me get off camera real quick and see if I'm not starting a fire because I left it behind me, so I can't keep an eye on my cleansing ball. So I'll be right back.
All right. Well, while he does that, guys, I want to share with you what I started to talk about, which is trying new things. And as an entrepreneur, I can tell you right now that there was no clear path into how I was going to do business, right? I just, at the time that I decided to go into coaching and holding space for others as they heal, I knew it was a passion and a purpose of mine, but I didn't have a clear pathway to get there. And rather than not doing what my heart called me to do, I just kept practicing. I kept trying new things. Some of them worked, a lot of them didn't. Sometimes I felt defeated by those things that didn't work. But ultimately, I kept on coming from a place of curiosity, like what Yanko said. And in doing so, I was able to slowly build my confidence and my ability to, one, know that I'm on purpose, meaning, yes, it's my passion and purpose, but I know through lived experience that I'm in what I'm called to do. And I just started to get more accustomed to being willing to try new things and not feeling like I have to do it one specific way each day, each month, each year to be successful, that I can pivot. And I think that is so important in all areas of our lives, because if we stick to a specific roadmap, or if we stick to a specific program that somebody says works for them, or if we stick to a specific ideology, then we close ourselves off from other ways of achieving even greater success than we would have if we just stuck to the original plan of action or course that we thought was going to work.
That's right.
There you
And sometimes this could be an emotional thing where you invested too much and you just can't let go. And it's like, oh, I got it so far. Maybe I'll just miss it by inch, or like, oh, because I invested so much on this and I'm expecting it to happen a certain way, then something else I'm missing or something else will happen. And to me personally, I have to check myself and see if there's like an emotion involved. in any decision making when I'm pivoting. Because like I, I got to that point, but like I don't know, and I always go by that saying that the map, it's not the territory. Like you have an outline, you know where you're going, but when you get there, there could be different things that you haven't been able to foresee, because then if you know how it all ends, then it's not going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I know you're always about, well, it's interesting. You know, I was just thinking as you said that, right? This like roadmap. I have a beautiful friend, Rachel Lee, who is an incredible um marketing coach, support system, whatever. I don't know what she calls herself. She's awesome. I love her. And she and I were talking a few days ago, and she shared openly on LinkedIn and stuff that her plan, her roadmap was to pay for all this coaching, to get all these certificates, to leave her design business and then open up her business. She was going to be successful. Well, like $140,000 in debt later, she's suffocating from this weight, and she decided to declare personal bankruptcy, right? And in the beginning of this year, and she shared this, openly, so that's why I have no problem sharing it and celebrating her. She shared this openly on LinkedIn. She's like, my to be free from this weight of debt by the end of this year for a milestone birthday of hers. And yet the way she broke free from it wasn't what she had thought, but in that breaking free, in surrendering to what she thought it needed to look like, her energy skyrocketed. I see her showing up now and I'm like, boom. And that's the thing is, guys, when we judge our experience, when we create a story of whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, then we're not able to sit in that peace, in that joy, in that freedom that we are all entitled to. And in fact, like, that is truly our gift from the universe, from our experience, when we stop trying to control what we think we need to control. And actually, I want to see if I can pull up a quote that I sent out to several people today because I love it so much. Let me see. It was so profound. People are healthy and no, people are as healthy and confident as the stories they tell themselves. This came up and I was like, oh my God, that's the same thing as, not having this expectation, like not expecting things to be a certain way, allowing it to
Mhm.
just be, and knowing that whatever it is where it's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, and that goes aligning with the detachment thing that I found in the book I was telling you. To read something like, let me see. Here it is. They used it as a marker in the book, but it
What's
says,
the
I
book,
can be.
Yanko?
Oh, the book, it's 112 ways to meditate, I think it was called, by Osho. I'm not 100% on the title, but it really resonates with me. It's wonderful. But it reads like that: I can be compassionate and objective and see the benefit of not being attached to the outcome of the event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yep.
But it's such a practice, and for anybody out there watching saying, huh, that's so hard. Even this morning, I woke up, right? And I had this fixed idea that I wanted to look a certain way for a wedding I'm going to later tonight, right? And I just had it set in my mind. And then due to circumstances, it's not gonna unfold. Well, actually, I shouldn't say it's not, because it could still, but at that particular moment, it wasn't working out the way I felt it needed to work out. And so I got upset and I'm like, you know, my ego's like, what the F? I'm always da, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? It's because I have this expectation around what I think it needs to look like rather than allowing it to be what it is. And as soon as I let it go, I was sharing with Yanko, one of my signs, one that I know, like I'm just tapped in, tuned in, back in alignment, right? It's when I know I'm not in my ego thinking. is a hawk, and I look out in Worcester outside Nana's apartment or house, and then I'm like, hi. And then I was just like, oh, I get it. It was because I made up a story of how my experience needed to be. And something similar happened last night. I grabbed the clippers. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do my hair. And I look at the thing and I'm like, oh, it says 1, so it's 1 inch. And I'm cutting. And there's like lines and it's like crazy. There's patches of black hair. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? And I called Nana. I'm like, Nana, I look like, I don't even know what I look like, but it looks really, really bad. He's like, nah, babe, it's cool. And he's like, doon, doon, doon. And he fixed it. And I looked and I'm like, oh, it wasn't 1 inch, it was an eighth of an inch. But then I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I can rock a baldy. I look so good. And like you just have to laugh at those experiences because otherwise you create anxiety and suffering and this story, right? Because we all have perspectives and this story of feeling victimized by your choices rather than empowered.
Right. And I want to tell our audience to chat with us, which reminds me that Gail shows up and is watching us and says, I realized I created my reality by creating stories. I can rewrite whatever I choose. So
Oh,
thanks, Gail. Yeah. And anybody else that wants to join us, send us your thoughts, join the
yeah,
conversation.
you
We'll
can
be
jump
happy to have
on
you.
and play with us live. We're always good with that. I know Radaviv is always interested in joining too.
And we got Terex. That's the root of disappointment expectations. That's right.
That's
Yep.
real. That is so real.
Yeah.
It's true. We have these expectations of ourselves. Yesterday I created a shame and guilt meditation that's being given to all the VIP people who go up to the addiction and mental health summit, not addiction and mental health, changing faces of addiction. Sorry, Adrian Ticky. That's her brainchild. It's her baby, and I'm honored that she asked me to co-host with her. But it really is about the habits and the stories that we continue to play in our head, and most of them enforce this belief that we need to sit in shame and guilt. In reality, we don't. Like that is just another choice. It is an option, of course, and it's one that more people lean into than not because it's more predominant. However, it is a choice. And when you really understand that and you start to release that, you then experience a lot more peace and joy rather than suffering. And the reason that's important, guys, is we're energy. When you're sitting in love and joy, what are you attracting to yourself? You're attracting love and joy, like Tarek, like Gail, like the Radavivs of the world, the Gemmas, the Occams. Like, and when you sit in shame and guilt, what are you attracting? You're attracting people who have that experience as well. And so it's just reinforcing this ideology that this is the way that life has to be. And it isn't. It really isn't. It does take effort. It takes effort to be aware of your thoughts and then make an active choice to shift out of that thought, but it is doable. And the more you practice, the better it is you get at it, until eventually you're like me, and this morning you sit in suffering for, instead of days and days and days or hours and hours and hours, it's like a 5 minute ugh, and then you just release it.
Yeah, I don't even let myself to get that, like, that deep into it, because like the more I let myself stay in a state, the more likely I am to experience emotion of that state that'll come up in the body, and the more likely there will be mind involved. And when the mind is involved in the whole thing, there goes the whole thing. You start creating other stories, and the mind is gonna want to solve it as a puzzle or as a dilemma or something that it's solvable, and you go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just not as advanced as you. And you know what? I'm gonna turn around and use Drew's words. We need the contrast to come back to peace. And you always tell me if you
Exactly.
stay in peace too much, it's boring. So, you know, and it's all it's like we gotta laugh. Like it I just have to laugh because of if I had not gone through that whole 5 minute spiral, who's to say I would have looked up and saw that beautiful hawk that just brought me so much joy? It immediately turned my frown upside down, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. It's not supposed to be that serious.
Yep. And Gail says we're huge magnets, and like energy attracts like energy. So
Yep.
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 Yeah. But
And yeah, that's hard. I mean, that's just what it is.
well, reality is what it is. But you're not wrong though. That's why even think the same way. You need the polar opposites to be able to have the freedom of choice and to know, because like how would you know, like if you've been in a state for so long and you get used to it, that becomes your state of operation. Then you don't know anything better, and that just becomes your normal state of operation.
Yeah.
So something else have to come along to get you out of that state, or to break the normalcy, because um, I'm even realizing that normalcy, it's a human thing that like humans invented.
Well, yeah. What is
You
normal
know,
anyway?
yeah, like how would you know? Um,
That's
somewhere
why it
else.
cracks me up about like neurodiversity or neurodivergent or whatever. I'm like, there's like 8 billion plus people on the planet, and we're not like not one of us operates the same. In fact, Gail, I don't know what Tarek does, but you, Drew, Radaviv, Lindsay Height, we all preach the same exact thing. Our understanding, our knowing comes from the same source. We say it entirely different in many ways. You know what I mean? My aunt loves watching you because she's like, he's a quiet, silent one, and then he just pops in. And then Gail is more energetic like me, but she has a softer touch, and that's the gift. And so normal is just an illusion. And that's why I embrace I embrace spirit, meaning what comes to me in any given moment. And for anybody who's on my phone list, recently you've been getting melodies, songs, because that's what, I love to sing. And I had this epiphany last week, or maybe the earlier this week. I've always, from as far back as I can remember, loved to sing. And habits, conditions, move you out of this idea that you can sing. And then I'm like, why do I have to perform on stage or be in a band or whatever to be a singer? What if I sing to my clients? What if I celebrate through song to people I love and affirm them? Why is that any different than a singer on stage? For me, it's not. And really, even if it is by the masses, it brings me joy. So what's it matter? And I would hope that it brings the people I sing songs to joy, because I mean, I do not sing out of key, guys. I'm not like really that. Um, and that's why normal to me, whenever my daughters are like, Mom, I just want to be normal, I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. That's boring. And not only
Exactly.
that, it's a conformity. And who wants to conform when you have this beautiful gift that not one other person in this entire planet has? And it's just
Exactly.
you.
Yeah, no, nobody can be you.
Yeah.
Nobody can be you. Like you're very unique. Like everything, it's really unique. And a lot of people don't realize that if you're here, there, you're here because you're unique. You're needed. Even if you don't think from your thinking mind that you're serving a purpose, and oh, like why am I here and all this other thing, you're here because you have to be here. Just accept it.
Or you at least chose to be here, like, you chose to,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I've had extensive conversations with so many people who are tapped into the Akashic records, who talk to their spirit guides. I'm like, listen, you know what I know? I know love. I show up as love, and I am happy as a clam. And so, if that is all I ever come to understand in this human experience, I'm good with it, because again, knowing that I'm love, I'm meant to exude love. Um, when I stay in that knowing, hawks appear. Kind words from people who love me appear. Unexpected abundance appears. And anytime I overthink it and start to be like, well, what is my purpose? And why don't I do this? And I'm like, that immediately takes me out of peace and joy and back into ego. And then guess what doesn't appear? Hawks. Joy. I'm like, I need
well,
to
well, they're probably there. You're just not aware of the
know.
hawks.
Right.
But then your deeper knowing that brings it up and says, "Hey, look up there," and you
Yep.
see the hawks, which is wonderful.
Hmm.
But yeah, you're you. I am I, and this is wonderful. I love it. And I gotta tell you, I love your singing too, because there is no, it puts you on the zone, first of all.
Yep.
And for anybody that like think arts or singing or anything, it's like just a waste of time. It's not. It gives your mind a break from whatever else is going on, and you can be you in that moment. You can be you, real you, because the whole point of it, there is no point, because there can be mind, because like, yes, you can think of like, I'm gonna paint a picture and I'm gonna make it a certain color or whatever with the mind. But when you go with the inspiration, with the feeling that comes in, there doesn't have to be a thinking of like how anything it's going to look like and how the outcome of a painting or a song it's going to come out. So when you're singing in the message that you send me, and that goes with like what Gail was saying, she says, I love the tune I received. So and I can say the same. It's just spontaneous. It just comes in and it goes. And the more you do it, the longer you can go and be in flow. But then at one point you're like, I don't know, I lost it, and you stop.
Well, it's so fun. I love to sing outside, on like when I'm going for my 5 mile walks and stuff. And I know I'm in flow, not only because I feel it, but I'm constantly getting beeped at. And it's for no other reason that people feel that. They're like, wow, this chick is having the time of her life. You know what I mean? I want whatever she drank in her Kool-Aid, And flow comes with, I know I did a post about this, but like, this is something I'm working on for somebody, I have no idea who, but like, it's just play. And you just create from like fun, and there's no expectation. And every time I give myself permission to be childlike, which I'm constantly being reminded to tap into from any person who does work on me, whether it's Reiki or whatever. I just it's just, I don't even know. There's no words. There's no words. And because it comes from love, whomever gets that love is going to share that love. And so it's all cyclical. It will come back to me in another way for sure, but it's all a gift of creation, right? And that's the ultimately thing I try to tell people: when you get out of your own way, you do.
Yeah, and I think the sharing, it's the point. I think, to me, a lot of people misunderstand it, and they still have this like possessive love thing, that they think like love is something like a box that you can give somebody or take it back if they don't behave, or it's conditional, like, oh, I'm gonna love you, or I'm not gonna love you if you don't do this for me, or whatever else. But to me, love, experience that you share with somebody else. You're in love, they're in love, and you just share your love with them, meaning you share that experience of that vibration of like, just, hey, it's like party. Here is the fun party, and here is the non party. If you want, you can come in and join the party and woohoo, you know what I mean? At least that's how I understand it.
Yeah.
Did I lost you there?
No, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No, no, I can
Oh,
hear you.
maybe
You
I
just
did
kind of
lose you.
like puzzle there.
Oh, okay.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it went
Yeah,
beep,
yeah,
beep. It's so interesting. I mean, when we're talking about unconditional love, right? It's such a obscure thing for most people to understand because we do know love based on condition. And I know I did for so long. But as you were talking about that love, I think about all of the people that I have encountered in my life, whether it's in romantic relationships, friendships, animals. And now that regardless of any of the human that was experienced at time that I had connection with them or still do, the underpinning of it was such unconditional love. And as I've learned to tap into unconditional love for myself, which truly I think is a basis to understand unconditional love externally, I love all of the human experiences I've shared in, regardless of what that has been, whether it's, caused me suffering at a moment or whether it's caused me joy. None of it weighs greater than another experience. It's all universal because all of it in its fundamental form was unconditional love is a gift.
right. Yeah. So, but that goes back to like everyone, it's unique person, and everyone experience their own way, the reality that they're experiencing in. And in in Gail says the same thing. I no longer compare my gifts and how I know to other experiences. And it just I don't know. Sometimes, like yourself, I just have an experience, and I just go like, wasn't that interesting? Like
You know, I
not like judging the experience, but just going like, like from all the other ways that I could have experienced this moment, this is the way I experienced this moment, and then I just go like, you know,
I want to go back to something that has been on my heart since last week when Gail blessed us with her presence and she shared that amazing story where she was working with a group and a woman expressed her anger and was like now in physical pain, and she
yep,
broke down that whole story, which was beautiful. And then after she's like, I'm not claiming to be a healer. And I was sitting there thinking about it, right? And I don't know why, but it was really, really on my heart for like days. And I'm like, but we're all healers. We really are. Every single person on this planet is a healer. And I think that whether it's looking at somebody in the eyes and saying, I see you, right? Because that is a profound act of unconditional love. Even if it's, I'm going to put Nana on blast for a minute. Sorry, babe. I love you to death. But here we go. Nana has like his energy closes up immediately if he sees a homeless person. If like there's homeless people walking by, it's like pew, pew. Whereas I will actively open myself up to, and I may not give this person money, but I will actively open myself up to look them in the eyes and give them love and just be able to like, and so in that moment, that is healing because no act of love is wasted, and love is healing, it's elevating, it's and so I always vacillate between whether I should call myself a coach or whatever, but I'm not a fan of labels, and that's what I chose way back when. And so I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to keep it because it really makes things simple. I don't have to think about it anymore. But the reality is we all heal in our own right. We've healed ourselves and then we heal others by healing ourselves and showing up as love. And I just really, that's my knowing.
Yeah, to me it's different. To me it's like recognizing myself in everything else, because to my understanding there's no other everything itself.
Mm.
So more of the time it's like, oh, like I look at myself in the other self and I say, isn't that interesting that you decided to show up this way to reflect back to me? And sometimes I just laugh, and in other times I'm like, okay, it's weird
But
experience
you're
to have.
telling me you don't get frustrated with some of the reflections that come back at you?
No, I do,
Okay.
but it's like it's me, so I'm thinking, okay, it's not like I'm not hard on myself. It's like, how can I be hard on myself if I'm still in recognizing and dealing with things like that that come up? It's like, um, yeah, I recognize it. It comes up, um, and it's just like something that had to come up. And when it comes up, I recognize it, and I say, all right, well, that's how you coming up, but you don't have to be that way. So I don't have to project the expectation back on my other self of like, okay, if you're coming up this way, that's how you're supposed to be. Because it's more of like, huh, you almost got me for a moment there, because you pretended to be this homeless person, and you pretended to be like, oh, look at me, like this and that. And I'll be like, yeah, you can pretend all you want. I'll give you money, but you're not homeless. You're whole, full, and complete. You're perfect as you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that's a hard sell for somebody who's living on the street, begging for change and stuff. And again, that's why I love our peering, because I do think that it's so important to bring it back to where most of the collective operate, which is in an ego-based thinking. And I mean, I have to tell you, if you at me and said, Kerri, you're whole healed and complete, right? And raped the first or second time, I probably would have punched you in the face and been like, you're a real bastard. Because that was the experience that I was in. And of course, fortunately, and I always affirm my parents for this. Thank you, mom and dad, for imparting the gift of reading to me, because any experience I ever had, I wanted to learn, and it brought me on this path that I'm at today. But again, it goes back to ultimately asking yourself, is the experience you're having one that you want to continue? If you look a year from now and see living on the street, scraping for food, or being in an abusive relationship, does that feel like something you want to continue to experience? And if not, giving yourself permission to start to either seek help, support, right? There are many beautiful people who can aid you in that, so you can start to really fundamentally understand that our thinking mind does create our experiences, and we do have the power to change our thoughts and experiences. And then just stay aware and curious and start to recognize the thoughts that you're having, because in recognizing them you start to take your power back. Even if, for me it was, oh my god, life is so unfair, I grew up lonely, I it was like this real victimized mentality. And in fact, I in my meeting yesterday, my community meeting, I was talking about shame and guilt. It's something I talk extensively about often, because I truly believe it has the grip holds of so many. And I want to empower people to start to give themselves permission to break free from it. And in the conversation, one of the people started, really focusing on other people. And what I said to them and everybody is, when we're so focused on everybody else and what they're doing, and our government, my boss, the job, my children, my husband, my mom, we lose sight of the only thing we have power of, which is our internal state and our ability to make different choices, to start to incorporate actions that make us feel better, to seek help if we feel stuck and don't have an answer. And so, really, ultimately, it's super important that Yanko and I offer you guys the, hopefully, if nothing else, hope and uh insight that if it feels hard, I get it, I really do, but it doesn't have to stay that way. You don't have to stay in that hard.
Yeah. My understanding just comes from a different perspective. So
Yeah.
let's say that I'm not saying that's how it is, but let's pretend that you create your reality. In your reality, if you see a person that it's homeless, you can do the homework for him because that'll be um, breaking his freedom of will, because whatever choices he made or didn't make led him to have that experience or just having that experience. And for me to sit and judge that person and say, does it look like a real homeless person? And I have to give him money or not give him money. This is me shaping that reality and expecting him to be a certain way.
Mm,
So in my situation, I see him as full whole and complete because there might appear this way in this situation in this very moment, but the reality is that they're not. They're just having that experience in this time space in this very moment. So to some people might look like what are you smoking or what are you talking about? But if you come from you creating your reality and we're all sharing um, collective reality where everybody comes up to play a role in your part of your reality, then I choose to see that person and their better self instead of degrading that person and seeing them as something that they're not.
mm.
So does that
Which
make
I
sense the way
totally
I'm
get.
explaining it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said that because I shared a story with somebody I coach recently, and she was telling me how she felt badly about her friend's teammate and all this. And I, like you, I don't allow I don't sit in sadness. Like, I sit in love for people, but I'm also not going to tell people that that's not their experience, or if or
Right.
they are whole, healed and complete.
Right.
I get it, but I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? I think it's Hafiz that said, see God in everybody, but keep it a secret. And it's so true. And the other point I want to say, and now,
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But keep it a secret.
but keep it a secret, right? Because to the point, right? Had you said something like that to me 20 years ago, I mean, I would have been irate, and I would have like been, knowing me, I really probably would have punched you because I was wildly angry. But um going back to what you said in their reality, and not taking it away from them, it reminds me of a conversation I had with Gail Kraft maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, where I was in ego and I was feeling really badly about some of my immediate family and the things that they were going through. And she said to me, well, it's interesting you said this because I just had this conversation with, I don't know, somebody that she, has a great connection with. And she's like, you're trying to take away their candy. And she's right. Like, my job is not to take care of any individual's experience, their journey, to try to judge it right or wrong, good or bad. It is to bear witness it. But the one thing that I would say for anybody is you don't have to take on their experience. And what I mean by that is, if I have an immediate family member whose experience is to continue to sit in, anxiety, or they drink or whatever, I can love them. I don't have to sit in that with them. I can love them from externally because that's what feels right for me. And that is an important piece that I tell people all the time, particularly when we're talking about addiction, because so often we love people, but we get so entangled in their web of struggle that we then become addicted to their addiction and their suffering. And it becomes, we lose sight of ourselves, we lose sight of nurturing ourselves. And it doesn't, it's not in the highest good of anybody. And so I just remind people, you don't have to take away their experience, but you don't have to live in their experience if that's not what you choose to do, if you don't want to.
No, that's that, and that goes aligned with what we're talking about so many times of setting boundaries.
Yeah.
You set healthy boundaries, and it's like, hey, this is what it is, and this is what I can do or not do, and
I
you
just
know,
laugh,
no,
Yanko, because as many times and as many books and as many courses and as many stuff as I see about boundaries, people struggle, and they struggle to incorporate and hold boundaries for themselves. It has nothing to like, so I actually had this conversation yesterday with my group. I've created a very firm boundary. I will only work with 10 clients at a time, 10 individual clients. I have my group and that's different, but 10 clients at a time. And there's a reason, because I understand the importance of self care. I understand the importance of taking time in between clients to cut that energetic cord and really resetting and being able to be present for the individual that I've made a commitment to be there for. Play. I'm big about play. I'm big about connection with family and being present with my daughters. So if I'm not holding that boundary, then I'm not able to be what I know for myself to be the best version of myself. And then, but the community was like, but what if this comes up? And I said, don't get it twisted. Can it be hard for me, or has it been hard at times in my career to hold that boundary? Hell yeah. Why? Money, right? I have to achieve a certain amount of money to be able to take care of my needs and the needs of my kids. So if I'm in a scarcity mindset, I have 10 clients and I have one more client who wants me to hire them, and it's just going to be one more. I could get sloppy on that, right? And yet I know fully well I have made that I've made that connection, that understanding that if I do that, then I start to get sloppy on my boundaries, and I start to really be present with myself, my discernment, my awareness, which then helps me show up in all areas of my life as love. And that is boundaries, guys. And that is being, unwavering in saying, I love you so much, but I'm no longer willing to bail you out if this is the choices that you make. I need to stay here. And when they call, you say, I love you so much, but I am no longer willing to help you out when you, and it's a practice and it takes effort, but it is absolutely worth it, because you take care of yourself and you're able to stay in love for them in a way that you're not able to when you're not taking care of yourself.
right? Because if you deplete it, you don't have anything else to give.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. It's
you're
so,
just
but it's so, I see it in coaches, I see it in therapists, I see it in I see it in nurses. you know it's really easy to talk about boundaries, but to actually implement them and really stay firm in them, it takes effort. And it's not it takes effort this one time. I'm constantly being my boundaries, not so much in relationships anymore, because I have created enough firm boundaries that I'm not willing to bend on, that I don't even attract people who would waver on them. But as I continue to do my own work, and guys, we are all doing work. None of us have this human experience figured out. As I continue to do my work, things do come up for me that I have to be aware of and work through. And in that place, my boundaries start to get, challenged, and I have to keep coming back to what is in the highest good for my wellness so that I can show up as love, because that's important to me in all areas of my life.
And not only that, but if you flip back to energies and vibrations, that's like you're testing the vibration. Like if you're going like you you had up, higher, you're vibrating higher, and now you're like used to that, but then you have to come down a little bit, and that comes up and challenges you to see like, okay, am I still on this vibe, or do I want to go on this vibe, or and this is where the duality of things are coming in, you know and it might even appear that nothing is changing, but you have like a um, maybe you go up a little bit, and then you have to integrate that learning, and it feels like you haven't changed anything, but you do. So and then the next time you go up a little bit, it might not feel like anything changes, but the way it's the same way as the river flows. The river overflows, it's going downstream, and it might not feel like it's changing, but it does. So it's kind of the same. So yeah, boundaries will be tested, things will happen, other things will happen, and this is why you, let's say, create your reality, and you co-create with everybody else around, and they might push their boundaries up to you and say, but I want your reality to be this way because I think this is better for you. But then you say, no, 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 I want it to be this way, and you can change it, and you co-create.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, bringing it back to like, you know, experience, a really really tough boundary that took me many many years to understand is I was a leader in corporate America, a retail leader. So I was in charge of all the operations of stores, and because in retail everything is constantly changing, right? I had to pivot, but I didn't have a boundary on my administrative day, right? And what I mean is, I love you, Gail. Thank you for joining and your input and your gift of love. Yeah, I'm just so blessed to call you family. Um, but so I was unable to meet the expectations of my leaders because I was constantly reacting and taking care of what I perceived as the immediate thing, right, within the retail space, until I really got firm on my boundary that Tuesday is administrative day. And unless the store or the organization is burning down, you can't bother me. I put in place other people to handle these things that came up. And that took me a long time. And to your point, it would come up, I would do it, and then I would forget, and I would go back to, then I would be reminded that I'm not following through on the things that I am responsible for. And then I'd go up until now, even in my own business, it's a non-negotiable. Saturday's my admin day. You know what I mean? It's just I do my admin on Saturday. I may have conversations with people, but that's when I'm checked out and I'm doing what I need to do. And it's just a practice. It's a continuous practice of coming back to what feels right for you. And when it doesn't feel right, think about what did work for you and keep going back to that. Keep going back to it.
Yep. You always go for the highest excitement, whatever excites you the most, that keeps your vibration in that level. So you go with that. That'll be your marker of where you're supposed to go, not what the mind says. At least to me.
And yeah, so like you say highest excitement, for me it's what brings me the most joy and peace in any given moment, whether it's listening to music, creating content, having great conversation with my dear friend Yanko. Just when you can sit and enjoy, yeah, like that's where you want to keep coming back to. And if joy feels like an elusive experience, an elusive emotion, because I know with chronic depression and suicidal ideation, there are even experiences that you can currently have that can give you that pop of like feeling that then hopefully you can work to get more of, whether it's a song that no matter how you're feeling it brings you back to peace, or going out and looking at a specific scene, smelling a candle, talking to a certain person. There's endless ways to find that for yourself. But if you're stuck in that, oh, I'm just depressed and I can't get out of my stinking thinking, think about one moment in time, as simple as it could be, and then go do that. Go do that.
Yeah, and that makes me think of Neville Goddard because he says the feeling it's the secret. Because and that really resonates from like working with clients, because once you have the feeling, um, you create it and your body follows. So if you have the internal feeling, because every time you go to bring up a memory, you go within to check that memory, and maybe a smell trigger that memory to come up. Maybe you smell a smell of pancakes that smell just like your grandma made them, and that brings up the whole thing. And right there in that moment, you time travel, you're back in time. In your mind, you're sitting, your grandma's bringing the pancakes, you're having, a wonderful time, and you have that feeling come up, and you're sitting in joy. And but in reality, nothing really changed outside. You're the same person, you're in that space, you're in that spot. You just time travel, and you had that feeling that came out of the memory. So,
Oh
and
my God.
this is why, like,
Saying that, I'm sitting here thinking of my beautiful grandmother, Lillian Kathleen Lazard, with her chain smoking cigarettes, burning bacon, and her coffee milk while we're at her table. And it just brought me so much joy.
see,
And
and
I was
and and
right there. And I'm like,
yeah,
hi,
so
Grandma.
like, yeah, so nobody really had an excuse not to like take advantage of the abilities that every one of us have. Everyone had an option to like, create something and get the feeling of it, like it's like there, because
Yeah.
that's how you get out of it. And and your body has no choice but not to follow. Like, if you're having in if you're having that experience, your body might have forget how to feel a certain way, but that'll be like a reminder, because like you think of it, then it comes up, the feeling comes in, and the feeling creates it, and then the body follows it, and then you feel lighter just because you change that, moment, and you recall that feeling. So,
Yep.
and if anybody haven't checked out Neville Goddard, I highly recommend. He's kind of talking from like a religious, non-religious perspective, of his own experiences and everything, because he went, I think, through the same um, experience that some people go through in life. And if you suspend your judgment or anything, you might actually find some gold in his
Yeah.
books.
Yeah. I agree. I'm trying to think who wrote Think and Grow Rich. I think Neville Goddard talks extensively about him too. I can't. I'm losing sight of his name. Anyway, that's
I,
gonna drive.
I, I had it, but I didn't, so it'll come to
But
me.
anyway, okay. With that, we have 6 minutes left. Is there anything you would like to say before we roll out for this?
No, this whole episode flowed like really nice. I really enjoyed it. Like everything just kind of, went in, and I appreciate all our viewers. Some share much and some don't. It's okay. Even if you just want to hang out with us, that's perfect. Gail comes in, Tarek, um, and same thing. Just we're happy to have you vibing with us every
Yeah.
Friday. We change our times, but just like life, everything changes. We had to pivot, and here we are. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. We don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Here we are to save the day. Mighty Mouse is on the. I don't even know if that's right. I just got
But
Mighty
I
Mouse.
love it though. See, you go with the flow. This is great. You know.
Oh, what was I gonna say? Okay, super cool, guys. We are now on podcasts, which I'm like, oh, I didn't do any of the work. That was all Yanko because I didn't want to do any of the work. That would not have kept me in my highest vibration. Um, and what else? What else? Yeah, guys, reach out to Yanko or reach out to me, or if you like what Gail says, let us know and reach out to Gail or reach out to Drew or reach out to out. Just reach out if you have questions because there are an endless amount of people who want or really are passionate about helping you get to experience joy and just love
And
and just self-compassion, if
right.
nothing else, just giving yourself grace and breaking free of that ridiculously awful feeling of shame and guilt, which truly, in my humble opinion, does not serve you at all. Which is why, shameless plug, not shameless because I don't care. I am co-hosting the virtual summit, Changing Faces of Addiction with Adrian Ticky on September 21st. It's a 4-6-4. It's 10 to 4. So 6-hour summit with, I think, 12 speakers. I will be talking about shame and guilt in addiction, but it's really just a platform for people to get more information, tools, and strategies to hopefully learn to support a loved one who struggles with addiction, or identify whether you struggle with addiction, or even if it's just learning tools and strategies to be aware of addictive behavior within the experience that you're having so that you can really come from a place of love rather than judgment. That's really important to us.
Yeah, and even if you don't think that we're not might be the fit for you, or even if you just have a question, we connect with like-minded people, and we have other people that we can say, "Hey, I know a person that I can really help you with whatever question you have or like concern that you might have."
Yeah.
So reach out, and we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Until next week, guys, thank you for joining another episode of Chakras Box. For no particular reason with Kerri Lewis and Yanko.
All right.